Worst user you could imagine threatens a raccoon with roadkill and follows through. I'm not even sure what the hell I just read. Let's find out. One-man IT show for a medium-sized business here. Computer repairs, networking, help desk, sysadmin, developer cert for ERP software. I do it all well enough. Seeing as this is a privately owned medium-sized business, there really isn't any bureaucracy I can hide behind. So the classic IT no tiki no washi is a constant battle. I track my own tasks using Monday.com and make sure I have written communication when it comes to requests for changes to the system. But a certain user with a lot of power in the organization insisted on calling. Always. I'll save a wall of exposition text by saying this person is difficult to get along with. You'll have to take my word for it, but I can get along with damn near anybody, and after working with this person for a few years, I really wish they'd just go away. A couple weeks ago, she called me up and immediately started screaming at me over some issues she claimed I should have dealt with months ago. I did, but she's not tech savvy enough to know the difference between the cloud being down and the power being out, and she's keen on making this somebody else's problem. This is not the first, second, or 12th time she's lost her shit over nonsense, and I'm not a tech support punching bag. I hung up on her mid-rant, and then I screened her when she tried to call back. F her influence, let her try to sick management on me. They know she's a psycho. Her response to this was to text me that I am not to contact her again about anything, ever. Yes, I'm sure you were heartbroken over that. What followed was the chillest week I'd had in months. Then the communication started up again because she runs the purchasing department and can't do shit without me. Texts and emails only. Our initial exchange was a little spicy after that. I thought, F it, this is what I wanted in the first place. Let's encourage this. So now I'm getting much more done because I'm not constantly getting interrupted with phone calls that demand my immediate attention. Edit. You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. Okay, for anyone who came here because they're wondering what the hell the raccoon thing is about, the idea is that this lady punished me with exactly what I wanted in the first place, like threatening a raccoon with food. The reason you've never heard of this idiom is because I made it up. Actually, it exists in other languages, just not in English. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Jon. I know. Way too long between videos again. Anyway, today we're doing Tales from Tech Support, and I wanted to share a little bit of news about our move. Obviously, you can tell the background's a little different. We bought another house. Well, a new house. We got rid of the other one because who can afford two houses? Anyway, this thing ticks pretty much all the boxes we were looking for. I don't know if it hits every little detail, but it's damn close enough. And the only way you're ever going to afford to tick all your dream boxes is to shell out probably close to $1 million. And again, who's got that kind of money? But it's one floor, so Auntie John and Uncle Jon don't have to go up and down major stairs. Got a couple acres out of the deal. So we've got room for the chickens to roam, the dogs to roam, things like that. Possibly even a little deer hunting for Uncle Jon. Yeah. Making friends with the farmer neighbors now so that maybe I can get on their crop damage tickets this summer. And plenty of room to grow veggie gardens, flower gardens, whatever kind of gardens Auntie's little heart desires. We've got some outbuildings. One of them is for Bubba. She actually made an apartment out of part of it, and the soap shop in the other part of it. So yeah, things are going well. Still a little crazy trying to, get moved in, get things settled, fix all the little idiosyncrasies that we're finding. These doors right here behind me, let's put it this way. This house was built in the 60s, so the original doors would have been that flat, clear-coated Luan doors. And at some point in the 80s or 90s, they put in these other bifold doors with the, colonial pressed board, whatever. And that's fine, except whoever helped them do it really didn't know how to use a tape measure, level, or square. So, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of door issues at the moment, but, it could be worse. I had a lot of issues in my other house, which was over 100 years old, and, yeah, I'm glad to be dealing with slightly more modern issues at this point. Anyway, enough of the rambling. The videos should start getting a little more regular now that we're settled into the house. I'm not sure I'll stay recording here throughout the year. I'm going to try to set up another spot once the weather gets warmer in the spring for at least the recordings, because it's still kind of tough in this house, even though we're a little more spread out. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. So thank you for all your patience, and welcome back. A tale of ignored policy, failed due diligence, and unhinged idioms. So this is another story from my time in cable internet provider call center tech support hell. One that I probably wouldn't share normally since the actual technical side of it isn't that interesting, and the ending is fairly anticlimactic. But there's one moment that just seared into my brain. This story comes from back in June of 2023. Since the events of my previous story, I had moved from second to first shift. This story came fairly late in my shift, after 3 p.m., since the second shift folks were filtering in. This will be relevant later. I get a call, and it's a fairly typical call. Someone who's been having issues with slow internet service, who's been calling about it multiple times. Turns out that I'm the 7th or 8th person she's spoken to about this, and basically all of them have blown him off because he's using his own router. Now I went through my usual troubleshooting procedures to see if there's anything that the last 8 people missed. The detail about 8 people blowing him off because he used his own router gave me a hunch that there was, because part of our troubleshooting script was bypassing third-party routers to try to verify whether the issue is with the equipment we provide or with the customer's third-party networking equipment. That told me that the last few people were probably just ignoring procedure in favor of trying to get the customer off the phone as fast as possible while sending out as few technicians as possible. Everything looked fine in our monitoring tools, so I mentioned that there's one more test that I wanted to run that would require a bit of finagling on his end. Since he had his own router, he seemingly just heard the part about him having his own router, and he immediately went on a rant about how he demanded that we send a technician out immediately, and he wasn't going to put up with me trying to upsell him again like the last 6 or 7 people did. Over the course of his rant, he mentioned that he can't use the routers the ISP rents out because they're missing several security features that are a requirement for any remote work for the defense contractor he works for. Brought up the fact that he used to work call center tech support for a different cable internet provider 15 years ago and knows all the tricks. And said that the last 2 people he spoke with told him that he had exceeded his data cap and his speeds were throttled because of it. Then he demanded that we remove the data cap and the throttle. The second is that the ISP I worked for doesn't have data caps. They do for their mobile service, but not their home internet service. Legally, they weren't even allowed to at the time when he first started calling in because of an agreement with either the FCC or the FTC in exchange for approval of a large merger 7 years prior, which might give away who I worked for. So I tried to explain to him that we're not throttling his speeds and that we don't have data caps for our home internet service. And this guy's response is, verbatim, "Yeah, and Epstein killed himself." I just sat there in a shocked silence for a good minute, just because I knew that if I opened my mouth, the only thing that's going to come out is, "What the actual F?" And I wasn't about to say that on a recorded line. Eventually I regained my composure and somehow got him to actually listen to me. I legitimately don't remember how. And explained that there was one more troubleshooting step I wanted to take that would let us determine whether the source of his issue was an issue with the ISP provided cable modem or if it was an issue with his router. All he had to do was disconnect his router and hook up a laptop, a desktop computer, a game console, or something else with an Ethernet port and web browsing capability directly to his modem, and then run a speed test. If the result was still less than what he was paying for, I'd set up an appointment for one of our repair techs to come out. If it was within the range he was paying for, then that meant that his router was in fact the source of the problem. It turns out that the only device he owned with an Ethernet port was his work laptop, which he couldn't connect directly to his modem thanks to his employer's aforementioned security requirements. Meanwhile, his personal laptop was a MacBook, and his only other device with networking capabilities was his phone. I recommended getting an Ethernet to USB adapter and calling back if the result was still slow with his MacBook hooked up to the modem via the adapter. And he said he was looking for an excuse to get a new personal laptop anyways and said he would call back if things are still slow with the new laptop hooked up directly to the modem. As a postscript to the story, I ended up going on my last break of the day right after that call, right as the guy who sat to my right, who worked second shift, was going on his first break. Turns out he overheard the call and that he was one of those 6 or 7 people who blew him off and told him to either call his router's manufacturer or switch to the ISP's in-house router. I probably should have lodged a complaint with his supervisor, but unfortunately, I didn't end up doing that. I also took a look at the customer's account again a month later and saw that he still hadn't called back, and it looked like he also had the same modem, so either he gave up on getting his issue fixed, or it was in fact an issue with his router. We were constantly having internet issues at our old house. We were having some when we moved in here, but let's face it, as of today, we've only been here a month and 2 days. So any bugs that would still be going on with this internet in our current location, it's something to be expected, let's face it, after I move. I've still got one more storage unit I got to get cleared out and moved over here, so I'm not paying another monthly bill on that. But, we were always having internet issues. Sometimes it was the ISP's modem, sometimes it was our router, sometimes it's just the way I configured everything. I can muddle through with Google as my friend, but, that's only going to get you so far, I guess. I will say, I found a really great modem combination for our ISP's router. Now, I hardwire from our main ISP modem router combination is in the middle of the house, as centered as I can get it. And then I hardwired a line over to this room so that I can be hardwired in with my PC. And my son-in-law has good enough Wi-Fi signal across the hall so that he can do his whatever wireless gaming he can do. But that's still not enough to cover the whole house and reach out onto the property at all. Man, I tripped on this. I don't know. I did some Google search and came across a couple videos on YouTube about this wavelength router, or well, it is a router, but it's an antenna setup. So you can use it as like a regular router, an extender, an access point. And if you want to look it up, check it out. It's the Wavelength AX3000, I think it's called. It's got 4 giant, omnidirectional antennas on it. So I ran a power over Ethernet cable out to a pole behind our garage and ran this thing up the pole. Not too far. I found out you don't want it super high because of the way the antennas are designed. You kind of want it down closer to the ground, at least enough so that you're sort of in line of sight or elevation with whatever devices you're using, computers, laptops, phones. And let's put it this way, well over 2 acres worth of coverage. And I am very pleased. Anyway, long rant. But yeah, it's tough when you start mixing and matching, aftermarket stuff with the ISP equipment and things like that if you're not a networking guy. And I'm not a networking guy. But I also don't yell at people about it. I'm willing to, do the things. Go hook up directly to their modem and, troubleshoot and things like that. And then we go from there. Got to be reasonable. I click and nothing. It happened some time ago. I had been working in the IT department of my organization for several years, and it seemed to me that I had seen everything that users had to offer. As it turned out later, I was wrong. One day when I was assigned to handle the so-called first line of support, I received a call from a lady newly employed in our company who was having problems with starting a program required for work at her position. When I asked exactly what was happening, she replied, "I click on the program and it doesn't start." Since I didn't receive any other information that this system, shared across all positions in the organization, had any problems, I asked if double-clicking on the icon displays any message so that I could diagnose whether the problem was hardware or software related. "I clicked twice and nothing," she replied. At that point, however, I wanted to see for myself what was going on. So since every workstation in our company has a program like Help Desk, which they can connect to IT support and share with us their desktop, basic data such as IP addresses, etc., I asked her to run it. "It doesn't work either," I heard. Okay, I thought, now I know something more. So I asked, "Does the cursor move on the screen when you move the mouse?" A moment later I heard, "Yes, when I move the mouse, something moves." After another few minutes of conversation, it turned out that the lady wasn't not able to provide any information that would allow me to remotely connect to her computer from my place, apart from the department where she worked, which was a large number of workstations. Since the area where our company is located is quite large, each department has its own warehouse with spare equipment. So in order to exhaust all possibilities, I asked her to take a second mouse from it and connect it to the computer. In response, I heard, "This is already the second mouse." I thought, oh, so it's something worse. For a moment, I was toying with the idea of telling the lady to change the USB port to another one, but in the end, I decided that I would go to the place to check what was going on. So I asked her to give me her room number and wait until I came. After some time, finally got there and found the room she indicated, and the employee was waiting for me. But before I even sat down at the desk, I asked, "Can you show me how you're trying to start the program?" The lady took the mouse and said to me, "Well, I'm telling you that I'm pointing on the icon and clicking twice and nothing." She did what she said. She pointed on the program icon. And then she grabbed the entire mouse and hit it twice on the pad. "See, I click and there's nothing." Yes, I think you're thinking exactly what I was thinking at the time. In her defense, I can only say that she was an older person. The problem went away when I taught the lady how to click correctly. I don't know how long ago this was, but I'm trying to figure out, most mice, it's pretty obvious that there's buttons on it. If you touch it at all, you can click and all that stuff. I mean, even an older person's got to understand or realize that that's not how this works, but maybe not. That's almost as good as somebody that got hired. I can't remember what the company or the story was, but I remember some younger person got hired and all their experience, I guess, has been with tablets, Chromebooks, and cell phones, like Chromebooks with a touch screen. And she got hired to this bookkeeping position and she couldn't get anything to work because she kept touching the monitor thinking that everything was a touchscreen. So what are you going to do? Spider-Man operating system saves computer. I work in a tech repair store, and we've been dealing with a customer who's had his computer in our store for around a month now. So many things have gone wrong with this customer's PC that I can't even list them all, but basically we fix one thing and another problem pops up. Every time a new problem popped up, we'd call the customer, tell him what's wrong, give him repair options. Every time now he's opted to just order a new part himself, bring it in and have us replace it. We've replaced the GPU, the RAM, the motherboard, the SSD, the power supply, and practically everything at this point. We basically built this guy a brand new computer. It still wouldn't run. Would turn on but no display. The motherboard didn't have an onboard speaker for any kind of beep codes, no onboard LEDs for troubleshooting, nothing. So we were just throwing whatever at the wall to see what would stick. My coworker decided to try his own GPU just to test. Nothing. He then tests his own singular RAM stick and huzzah! Some kind of life. He diagnoses it a bit further and it's still not working correctly, but it's turning on. He decided to try to test the drive. He loaded some random copy of Spider-Man onto the customer's PC just to see how it would run. The PC was somewhat slow and framey, but it was now working after hard installing Spider-Man onto it. He then attempts to swap the GPU back out to the customer's GPU. Still works. He then takes his RAM stick out. Still works. Finally, he slowly adds each stick of RAM back into the PC and tests it after each one. It still works. Finally, after all that headache, we had this guy's PC working again, and all it took was for my coworker to install Spider-Man. Now to test the unthinkable. Uninstalling it. He uninstalls it as to not take up 400 GB on his new SSD, and due to piracy reasons obviously, and it still works. My coworker basically installed Spider-Man as this man's OS and it fixed the guy's computer finally. Weird. Edit. Okay guys, my coworker didn't literally install Spider-Man as an operating system. The computer wasn't working. He somehow installed Spider-Man on the SSD externally and it magically started working again. I don't know what to tell you guys, this computer was just cursed. He did everything he could and it just didn't start working until Spider-Man was installed. I don't know. I guess gremlins are real because I've had situations where, you work on a problem, whether it's on a car, a piece of machinery in the carpentry shop, a computer, whatever, and you touch something totally unrelated and then lo and behold, everything starts working again. Who knows? Sometimes that's just the way things work. One thing I will say though, most shops I know of, and I'm probably in the same boat. If I had a computer repair shop, I would under no circumstances allow this guy to buy his own parts, have them delivered, and bring them in to me for installation. You don't know where he's getting his parts. You don't know how they were handled. You just don't know anything about him. And, for all you know, he could be ordering, some hinky, weird, refurbished, used parts. I don't know. I mean, odds are that they're probably fine, but who knows? Maybe there's something slightly out of spec. I don't know. But I know most mechanic shops and computer repair shops, around here at least, are not going to touch anything if you insist on buying your own parts. You want to buy your own parts? You install them or have somebody else install them. I think you probably would have found your issues a little quicker if you had done that. And honestly, after the third or fourth thing that broke down, I probably would have recommended a whole new PC. But that's just me. Anyway, guys, thank you for your patience. Appreciate y'all hanging around, waiting for me to do another story, finally. And do me a favor, if you're into handmade soaps and things like that, we have another company called Uncle Jon Soap. I'll put the address down here and maybe a link down in the comment section. And we're running a Valentine's special where we have a coupon code for you guys. It's right on the front page of the website as soon as you click on it. It's LOVE2025 is the coupon code that you use at checkout. That'll get you 20% off all your orders, not just for the Valentine's special that we have. But we do have a Valentine's special where we have a nice little cake of soap, soap dish, and a slice of soap saver pouch, all wrapped up with a nice pretty little ribbon, your choice, red or pink. If you got friends, family, a loved one that's into the handmade type stuff, go ahead over to the website, check it out. We really appreciate you clicking on the site, and every little click helps. All right, guys. Till the next video, we'll see you.